Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. I hope to be back on camera by the end of this week. So first up today, my video yesterday, YouTube was having some problems and they still are. So if you didn't see yesterday's video and you wanted to, I'll include a link below and in the card above. First up today, a new Tesla note from Morgan Stanley, price target 250, but more important was what they said. This is one of those statements you should lock away mentally and keep with you throughout the year. We believe 2023 is a year during which execution on manufacturing costs and supply chain management will further separate the winners from the challenged, both of which will be required to bring forth more affordable EV prices that can unlock further penetration growth. Capital self-sufficiency may also be tested during a time of negatively reset expectations. In case you're new to the channel and Tesla, I'll just tell you flat out, Tesla is the best when it comes to execution on manufacturing costs and supply chain management, and it's honestly not that close. In my humble opinion, no one is even close to being in the realm that Tesla is in when it comes to these two factors. They go on. Over the next few years, we anticipate the rate of change of EV penetration has potential to disappoint as investors, consumers, and regulators contemplate the hidden costs of diversification from a Chinese-dominated EV supply chain into a market where many players have yet to prove viability of the business model. This is actually a huge W for Tesla. Why is that? Because who's one of the only players to prove this viability? It's Tesla, one of the only ones making EVs profitably at scale. So as OEMs and more nascent EV companies struggle with new supply chains and trying to figure out how to make money with EVs, Tesla's already been doing it for years, far better than everybody else. And that's why Morgan Stanley concludes saying, within our coverage, we believe Tesla is uniquely positioned to lead engineering and cost improvements that have yet to truly unlock the scale potential of the EV economy. And yes, this is actually Morgan Stanley's interpretation of the upcoming EV penetration S-curve. An interesting take on it, but that's what they came up with. A quick note on all of these reports about how many orders Tesla's received from the price cuts in China. I just want to say it really doesn't matter. Ultimately, the short-term order spike, whether it's 10,000 or 30,000, yes, I've seen both across social media, doesn't really matter. As Rob said, he's right. It's about the sustained demand. There's also reporting I just believe is flat out wrong, like this one from the CNEV Post saying Tesla delivered over 10,000 vehicles on the day of the price cut. I think they just meant to say orders because, of course, if you did 10,000 deliveries per day multiplied by even 20 days in a month, that's 200,000 cars in the month. Obviously not sustainable, and I don't even think it's sustainable for one day. And the good news is we'll be able to confirm this order spike to some degree with the incoming insurance registration data in the next few weeks. Speaking of that weekly insured data for Tesla China, we got it for the most recent week, and yes, it was low, just as we've been talking about that it most likely would be into the new year as demand basically falls off a cliff, at least temporarily. Number 2,110 units for the week, BYD still over 35,000. Here's a simple chart to give you some context over the past few weeks where this 2,000 number falls in line. And yes, Tesla lowered prices on January 6th, so that impact has not really showed up in this data yet, which is why I said we'll have to watch it over the next few weeks. But I just want to be clear, this is absolutely no need to panic when you factor in everything like COVID, the cyclical nature of car sales, the lack of incentives currently relative to where they were, Tesla adjusting export and local delivery timing, etc. It's just 1 week of data that we've been expecting to be low, so honestly, not a big deal. And zooming out to look at the full year of data, we also got the domestic number for the month of December coming in at 41.9 thousand, which yes, brings the quarterly total for local retail deliveries in the Chinese market to a new record just slightly above Q3. We should get the official production number here shortly, and then we can calculate the inventory column, which I left off for today. And for everybody that prefers graphs, here are a few quick ones. First one from Roland on Twitter. This is quarterly Tesla sales in China. Again, retail domestic deliveries, new record in the fourth quarter. Everything going just fine. And one more from Berlinergy. This chart is also China retail sales, just broken out by month instead of by quarter. So yeah, we would have liked to see a number number higher in December, but as we've talked about now for weeks, there's been a lot going on over there in China. And honestly, it's just business as usual as we continue in or head closer to a recession. Here's another way to view the data. This was shared by Sam Corris from ARK Invest. We have the China total passenger car sales from 2021 to 2022, up 1.9%. We have China battery electric, which is only full BEV. This does not include hybrids, as Sam confirmed in the comments. And we also have Chinese internal combustion engine sales down 5.8%. And here are the same chart styles just for the United States data alone. So again, full BEVs only, no hybrids, up 46% from 2022 compared to 2021 in the US. And a number that hopefully we see down even more than 10% over the course of 2023 when it comes to ICE sales. We also got some more comments from Tao Lin about Tesla in China, as she accepted an exclusive interview with the media, which she historically has not done. But just so everybody knows, we're talking about the same person here. This is her LinkedIn page. She does sometimes go by Grace, and in her bio, it is Grace Tao. Ray for Teslas referred to her as Grace Tao, Tesla China's VP. Some other publications have referred to her as Grace Lin or Tao Lin. We're all talking about the same person as far as I can tell. And who exactly is she? Well, her LinkedIn says she's been with Tesla for around 9 years, and she's in charge of government affairs, public relations, marketing, and branding in Greater China. I'm going to paraphrase some of what she said. First, don't forget these price cuts are coming after consecutive rounds of price increases. In response to some people complaining that Tesla has been labeled as too casual when it comes to raising and lowering the price with this new direct sales model, here's what she said. The price adjustment of a product is actually a forecast of the company's cost changes in the next period of time. Remember, Tesla is always looking out 6 to 12 months ahead of time, essentially projecting what their input costs are going to be in the future. Grace said one of the biggest differences they're forecasting for 2023 is the supply chain returning to normal, and to a large extent, they won't have these unpredictable shortages of materials like they have the past few years. That uncertainty also brought cost uncertainty. Makes sense. So to some degree, these price adjustments are just reflecting Tesla's better planning for the supply chain as it stands going forward. Speaking to some of the angry customers, she said the fact that any company does not calculate the cost every day, but calculates it according to a time period. So Tesla's pricing strategy may not be perfect and is different for a lot of people, but at least they're transparent and you know what you're getting. And you're not just paying a different price because the guy at the dealership had a bad day or needed to hit a certain sales number that month. And when it comes to this input cost prediction and timing, ultimately these contracts are signed months in advance, so there is a lag involved as well. So all of these large price adjustments that Tesla has made in its history have been due to external factors that had a certain impact on the cost. Now we'll see if this one sticks. She said Tesla's current supply chain localization rate is already 95% in Shanghai, so theoretically speaking, there's not a ton of room for improvement. So after this adjustment, it should be more stable. Again, with the direct sales model, everyone at least is at the same price at the same time. So Grace is saying that the hope is that over time, consumers learn the pros and cons of the direct sales model, and overall, they'll come to agree that overall it's just better, but not perfect. And to everybody in the media saying that Tesla is cutting prices because it has no demand, Grace is saying, I think it's really nonsense. When it comes to fluctuations in inventory, remember it's largely driven by some cars being on the way of being delivered in transport. As we've been talking about the channel, the car industry is very cyclical, and Grace is touching on that as well. She said, for example, in January, they're only going to have about 2 weeks to make cars because of the Spring Festival. So of course, the factory won't really be able to reach full production this month. And when the output isn't the same, the corresponding lead times will be different as well. And Grace graciously reminded everybody that Tesla currently only produces 2 domestically produced cars. cars. So this is not going to meet the needs of everybody in China, and Tesla is understanding of that. And like we've talked about, they are working on a next generation vehicle. That time will come. We all just have to be patient. And don't forget that the longer Tesla waits, the more market research and information it can gather on what the market actually wants. And ultimately, that's only going to benefit Tesla. I can guarantee you when they release this next generation vehicle, whatever market it ends up being in first, they are going to crush the game. A great point here from Grace: the EV game in China is not a zero-sum game, meaning it's not BYD or Tesla. She's saying the market is huge, and if another company is outselling Tesla, then Tesla's just going to have to improve their product. But even in the interim, it's not like Tesla is losing, it's just like the EV market overall is winning. And interestingly, to close, she was asked about Tesla making a cell phone, the naming of Model 2, a second factory in China, to which Tao Lin said the above rumors are not true. Shifting gears to a fun chart from Alex. You know how VW has been claiming they're gonna pass Tesla in BEV sales? Well, this chart is actually showing us the VW BEV sales as a percentage of Tesla's sales. And you can see these bars are not growing. If anything, they're staying the same at best or actually getting smaller. So the answer remains no. VW is not even close to catching Tesla, let alone close to passing them when it comes to full BEV sales. According to the Austin Business Journal, Tesla has filed for 4 separate expansion projects at Giga Austin, totaling around a $716 million investment. Now, I have to say, where it says Giga Texas is set to expand by 1.4 million square feet, filings have said this in the past, and really nothing has changed. They've just done work to the inside of buildings or structures already built. So just wanted that disclaimer to be out there. But Tesla filed for 4 new projects on January 9th, expanding 4 different facilities named Cell 1, Drive Unit, Cathode, and the Cell Test Lab. Construction at these buildings could start as soon as the end of the month, and the bulk of the expenditure will come from the construction of the Cell 1 facility, set to cost $368 million, and you can see the cost for the rest of the buildings as well. So not a lot of detail given, but great to see expansion projects underway at Giga Texas, and buildings like the cathode facility that you've mostly been watching on the drone flyover videos over the past few weeks, just entering the next phase of construction. Speaking of Giga Austin, I just typed in an Austin zip code, and you can see some of the standard range, if you will, model-wise back in inventory for around $63,000. Presumably, these will have the 4680 structural packs. They're still just placing a small number of these in inventory and not putting it on the actual configurator, meaning they're still not really producing this vehicle in high volume. Most of the reports that I've seen of how many of these are available across the country has been less than 100. I guess that number could be changing by the hour, but that's just my latest intel. Which brings me to this total new inventory chart that people are now using to say that the demand cliff is here and Tesla has no demand. That's not at all how this chart should work. Really, the only thing you can use this data for is the directional trends, because the raw data of how much vehicle inventory is here, this is not what it makes it out to be. For example, they may only have 1 variant, but at a certain location, there could be 10 Model Y long ranges with the same wheel, whereas this is only going to classify it as 1. So yes, there's more inventory available than this chart would tell us. Whether you multiply that number by 8 or 12 is anyone's guess ultimately. But again, fluctuations in inventory are not as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. Tesla is always trying to optimize its delivery logistics and to drive down costs, and that's all part of this number fluctuating with time. So just don't sweat it at all. Or maybe it's better for me to say, I'm not sweating it at all. And I did want to pose this idea to you guys. So it may not be possible or feasible because maybe the third row in the Model Y is not removable. I know it's not now, but maybe it'd be really hard to do that in the future. But an option for Tesla, they could just make the 7-seat variant free. It's usually a $3,000 upgrade, but if they just included it and made it standard, basically all Model Ys could then be eligible for the Inflation Reduction Act $7,500 credit if they don't actually change the qualifying requirements. And then for all of the consumers that didn't want the 7-seat configuration, they could just take out the third row. And yes, I get it. It's a structural pack, the seats are bolted on, the whole shebang. However, for the third row, maybe they could adjust it. And if this is going to be a 10-year scenario where the IRA is here in this form for the next 2 years, maybe it's worth it. What do you guys think? From Drive Tesla Canada, Tesla is building a new collision center in Reno to have dedicated repair service for the Tesla Semi, which, as far as I can tell, would be the first service center like this. If you're familiar with the area, it's on Corporate Boulevard, about 21 miles away from Giga, Nevada. An existing building will be demolished, and in its place, a new 44.4 thousand square foot building will go up, costing around $4.4 million. According to the plans, it looks like there will be 5 dedicated stalls inside the building to work on the Semi. Go ahead and pause the screen if you want to study these plans yourself. This new collision center likely won't open until at least toward the end of 2023, if not early into 2024. Notice this headline from The Verge, how they're covering BMW's EV recall, putting in the title front and center, a software update should fix the problem. Had this been Tesla, I doubt they would have that in there. But the problem for BMW, the high voltage battery electronic control unit software may, during certain vehicle operating conditions, cause an interruption of electrical power. BMW saying there are no incidents or accidents from this, and owners can continue to drive their vehicles while waiting for a software update to fix it. The update will be provided by the dealerships free of charge. So yes, customers still have to make it to the dealership. And it may seem like a small one, but that differentiation of Tesla being able to do OTA updates for pretty much all of its recalls, whereas these other automakers that do not specialize in software are going to take a much longer time to do real OTA updates for a wider array of problems where you don't have to actually go to the dealer. Just one of the many competitive advantages for Tesla. This one's pretty cool. At CES, Goodyear revealed a new tire in which 90% of its components are materials coming from sustainable sources, 17 sustainable ingredients that include things like recycled polyester, plant-based components like soybean oil, rice husk waste, and biorenewable pine tree resin. If you didn't know, tires are still not the most sustainable products in their current iteration. And the word on the street, this is not just some fancy prototype that will never see the light of production. Goodyear's demonstration tire has already passed regulatory testing and Goodyear's internal testing. It's just now Goodyear has to work with suppliers to figure out a way to scale up mass production, but it does have another tire made from slightly less 70% sustainable materials in the works and already launched a website for customers who are interested in buying it. I'll include this full article below. We have Polestar just quietly executing, hitting its goals, and slowly growing in a sustainable fashion. In Q4, Polestar delivered over 21,000 vehicles in the final quarter, meaning for the year they hit over 51,500, up 80% from 2021. And for 2023, Polestar is looking to deliver 80,000 cars this year, and CEO Thomas Ingenlath said they're looking to meet growing demand for the Polestar 2, commence first deliveries of the Polestar 3 later this year, and launch the Polestar 4. And here's a fun update from Sawyer on SpaceX. They're in the process of getting certification, so more of the main airlines, the Airbus, Boeing, Bombardier, Embraer planes, will be able to use Starlink aviation. And then from Nathan Owens, we see the list of the actual aircraft on the list that Starlink is in the midst of working to gain approval for. You'll definitely recognize some of these aircraft on the screen. News like this usually is just business as usual when it comes to the reality of it, while every now and then there's something more going on. In this case, we have several executives from Rivian, including the vice president overseeing body engineering and the head of supply chain, have left the EV maker. Wall Street Journal is saying the executives who left were some of Rivian's longer tenured employees, but that doesn't necessarily have to spell doom and gloom. Because you may remember over the last 10 years, yes, Tesla has had some high-ranking executives leave the company. The Rivian spokeswoman said the moves were made to ensure the startup has the talent and staff it needs to increase production. And I tweeted about it the other day, the Tesla Twitter account doing nice work. In 2022, the Model Y was the best-selling EV in Austria, Belgium, Switzerland, Germany, Norway, Portugal, Slovenia, and the UK. It was also the best-selling car in Iceland and Norway. Europe, handshake, Tesla. On that note, that'll do it for today. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.